The recent developments in the region indicate that Israel is a terrorist state, practicing terrorism at an official level. This includes crimes such as the assassinations in Lebanon, Iran, Dubai, Beirut, and other places, and resorting to methods used by criminal gangs.
Jordan is a place that always seems to walk a fine line. You feel it in the air, in the way people talk about politics, and in how the country is always looking over its shoulder at the chaos around it. My last trip to Amman though felt different. Tense, electric, like something was about to snap. Nasrallah had just been assassinated. Iran was firing rockets into Israel. And even in Amman you couldn't escape it. We virtually felt the houses of France shaking from the impacts of explosions just across the border. It's hard to imagine back here in Europe, but when you're that close to Israel, every tremor of war feels like it's right at your doorstep. It was in the middle of all of this that I met Senator Mohamed Dawodieh. He's one of those rare figures who seem to wear many hats effortlessly. Former minister, ambassador, and now a recently reappointed senator. The connection came through Nicolaas van Dam, a former Dutch ambassador, a fluent Arabic speaker, and someone known to have his finger on the pulse of the region. That's why he's such a well-received guest on my channel. But Dawodieh was the kind of introduction that leads to more introductions. Thanks to him, I found myself sitting down with 3 other top-tier diplomats, including Dr. Marwan Mouasha, Jordan's former foreign minister and vice president of the World Bank. He is one of the most respected and sharpest minds I've ever had the pleasure of interviewing. So Senator Dawodieh, who arranged all of that, is a staunch defender of Jordan's monarchy, and he's not shy about saying so. He believes that the Hashemite royal family is the bedrock of stability in this volatile region. But here's where he and I see things slightly different. I can't share his confidence that Jordan is as safe as he thinks, and I really hope I'm wrong. The Middle East is literally shifting under our feet, and this is not just a figure of speech. And I don't think anyone, not even Netanyahu, let alone Trump, really knows where this is heading. Here's what worries me most. Jordan sits right in the middle of several dangerous ideas coming out of Israel. On one side you've got people pushing the idea of ethnically cleansing Gaza and the West Bank, forcing millions of Palestinians into Jordan, overthrowing the king, imagine that, and then declaring Jordan the Palestinian state. On the other, there's this far-right dream of a Greater Israel, which doesn't stop at the Jordan River. It's really hard to overstate how catastrophic either of these scenarios would be for Jordan. This is a country already struggling with a fragile economy and the weight of a massive Palestinian refugee population. Adding more fuel to that fire? That's just chilling. And yet Senator Dawodieh seems unshaken. He believes that Jordan can weather this storm just as it did so many times before. But I can't help to wonder, how long can a little country like Jordan, keep walking this tightrope before it falls? That's the conversation I wanted to have with the senator. I wanted to understand how someone who has seen so much as a diplomat and now as a senator can still believe in Jordan's resilience when the threats are so overwhelming. But before we dive in, I need to say this. Critical voices like you hear on this channel are being actively silenced and suppressed. You may not notice it, you may not know it, you may not even believe it, but it does happen, and I have the statistics to prove it. So if you do value sharp, unfiltered analysis that doesn't follow the mainstream narrative, hit that subscribe button. This isn't just about staying informed, it's virtually about keeping these vital conversations alive. Thank you. Senator Dawodieh, Your Excellency, thank you very much to have me in your home, in your house here in Amman. It's my real honor talking to you.
Hello, Mr. Carrot. I am pleased to speak with a friend like you, who stands for justice, integrity, and the Arab cause as well.
Before we start, we are recording this interview at the very same day as Hezbollah officially confirmed, I believe since about an hour, that Nasrallah has been killed by Israel. So my first question would be, before we go into who you are, but my first question would be, what will be the consequences for Jordan, for Lebanon, and for the wider region of this assassination?
Assassination is harsh, difficult, and dangerous, and Israel's resort to assassinations demonstrates its backwardness, ignorance, and brutality. The repercussions of the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah on the region will be clear. The region will enter into tunnels and corridors that hinder the path to peace, specifically regional peace and stability. Supporters of Nasrallah and Hezbollah members will resort to revenge. Iran will also supply these supporters with what they need to seek revenge. There will be damage across the entire region, and perhaps the least of this damage will be on Jordan. The damage that will affect us will be economic. The region has become closed. Tourism is Jordan's oil. Therefore, tourism is halted now and will continue to decline more and more due to the tensions and risks brought about by Israel or the Israeli ruling regime in the region.
Thank you very much for this initial impression. We will come back to that topic in a little bit. But before we do, I would really like to introduce you, Your Excellency, to the viewer. Now, you were kind enough to receive me here yesterday, and you explained to me you had a very interesting career. You were ambassador in various countries. You had 2 or 3 minister posts. I apologize that I'm not 3. Yeah. So maybe very briefly, you explain to our viewers, in a nutshell, the highlights of your career.
I started as a teacher in the Jordanian villages, which allowed me to get to know different regions of Jordan and its roots, the roots of the Jordanian people. Then, I transitioned into journalism. I am a reader, and reading has shaped me. In the Hashemite royal court, I was with King Hussein, may he rest in peace. Then, I went to the elections in southern Jordan and became a member of the House of Representatives, elected with the highest votes in the elections in Tafala. Later, I became the Minister of Youth in 1996, then Ambassador to Morocco in 1998. I then returned to serve as the Minister of Political Development, a position I helped establish. I served as Minister of Political Development in 2003-2004, then went on to serve as Ambassador to Greece. Later, I became Ambassador to Indonesia. I then returned to Jordan and served as Minister of Agriculture in 2022. I became the chairman of the board of the first newspaper in Jordan, Al Dustur, and later became a member of the Senate. His Majesty King Abdullah appointed me as a member of the Senate 2 years ago. I have been a daily writer, writing political and local articles since 1977.
And you were kind enough to send me your articles for the last 2-3 months or so. You sent me the articles, and I was really intrigued in the courage that you have in writing as openly as you do as Senator of Jordan. Now, to set the stage a little bit, you were kind enough yesterday to show me a couple of images here from the royal family, but also from you with the royal family. So, how would you describe your relationship with the royal house?
My relationship is characterized by loyalty. I am loyal to the Hashemite regime. The Hashemite system is a guarantee of stability in Jordan and in the region as well. The Hashemite system is a system of peace, moderation, and centrism. It represents Islam in its true form: moderation, centrism, acceptance of the other, and freedoms. I am counted among the prominent intellectuals in Jordan, and I stand with the Hashemite system out of awareness, not out of obedience. I stand with it out of conviction. I was once an opposition figure, and I was steadfast in my opposition. Now I am a supporter, and I am also steadfast in my support. This matter is completely clear to me. The Jordanian Hashemite system is one of the pillars of global peace, and the Hashemite king is a key figure in that. King Hussein and King Abdullah are messengers of peace. King Abdullah has received every award, medal, and gift from peace organizations around the world. Therefore, King Abdullah's talks about peace and the plans he outlines to save the region from brutality, occupation, and Zionist expansion are widely accepted by the world, as he is a man of great stature. He is committed to peace against war, violence, injustice, and occupation.
You told me yesterday, very briefly, that's the last question in regards to the royal house, but you told me yesterday that you knew the king's father. So which role had you under the king's father?
I worked with King Hussein, may he rest in peace, as the director of media in the royal court and as his media director from 1992 to 1993. This was a very important period in our history, as it was followed by the Iran-Iraq War. The issue of Kuwait came up, followed by the Oslo Accords, and then the Wadi Araba Agreement. The circumstances in the region and the broader area were difficult. In fact, King Hussein Jordan in the direction of peace. He worked with Israeli Prime Minister Rabin, who was assassinated by Israeli extremism. Luckily, Rabin was not assassinated by Hamas or Hezbollah, nor by any Arab extremist. He was assassinated by extremists, Israelis, Haredim who never wanted peace.
The situation in Jordan, that's exactly what I would like to discuss with you, yeah? With not only with the ongoing Israel-Palestine conflict, but also with the widening of this conflict, as we are seeing now from Gaza into Lebanon. What's the position of Jordan? How can Jordan maintain stability?
Jordan is a nation built on a strong and essential pillar of internal harmony. The leadership, under the wise, prudent, and strategic guidance of the king, alongside the Jordanian people, who are equally wise, rational, and thoughtful, fosters a high level of satisfaction with governance. There is a profound alignment between the leadership and the populace, which strengthens and unites the internal front of the country. The people are mature and fully understand the risks associated with undermining stability in Jordan. Therefore, we place great reliance on our people and the wisdom of both our people and the Hashemite leadership. These two types of wisdom, the wisdom of the people and the wisdom of the leadership, is important to overcoming difficulties. Since the establishment of Jordan, there were many challenges. However, Jordan excels at overcoming crises, and it masters crisis management due to the strong bond between the people and the leadership. There is the constant risks of Israeli aggression in Gaza and now in the West Bank. Netanyahu has opened war against the people in the West Bank, and then there is the war in Lebanon and the war on Syria as well. All of this leaves deep repercussions in Jordan. However, Jordan is able to absorb these repercussions and withstand the blows directed at its economy, transit movement, exports, and trade. We export Jordanian goods, particularly vegetables and fruits, via transit through Syria to Turkey and then to Europe. However, the regional dynamics are truly impactful.
Your Excellency, we are covering the situation, the instability in the region, right? You told me yesterday that about 41%, I'm correct, right? 41% of the Palestinian population is of Palestinian descent. That's one factor within Jordan. Then, of course, you have Israel, You have the United States, you have the Western community. So Jordan is, I have the feeling sometimes, sitting between multiple chairs. So as far as you can tell, as a senator, what's the biggest pressure on the Jordanian government, let's say even today, after the assassination of Nasrallah? Where is the biggest danger for Jordan?
Yes, look, it is impossible to focus solely on the percentage of Jordanians of Palestinian origin in Jordan. These Palestinians have integrated into Jordanian society, they have equal rights, and they are members of the government, parliament, senate, media, and the economy. We should not focus on their number. No, they are part of the Jordanian people, an integral part of the Jordanian people, and they support the aspirations of their brothers and our brothers in the West Bank and Gaza for freedom and independence. Jordan has been accustomed to this since its establishment 120 years ago. Jordan was established surrounded by difficulties and the Zionist enemy. I refer to it as an enemy because it has ambitions in my country. We have excellent relationship with the USA. In reality, it is a relationship of deep strategic alliance. And this relationship enables us to maintain our technical and defensive capabilities in the face of terrorism. Initially, an international coalition was formed to combat terrorism, and we were a key participant in it. The assistance we received was substantial, particularly in terms of technical, logistical, and intelligence support, including satellite services. The United States has also provided us with significant and much appreciated financial support. We have excellent relationship with the USA. The United States also has a similar, if not stronger, alliance with Israel. This alliance has religious roots. It indeed has religious roots, along with myths that are inconsistent with the world's shift towards the civil state, secularism, and similar concepts. From this perspective, there is no contradiction between the United States alliance with Israel and its alliance with Jordan. The U.S. alliance with Israel, in reality, involves a deviations. Like in a Christian marriage, the United States supports Israel in both good and bad times. The United States must play its role in controlling and restraining extremism. They are against extremist ministers, against extremism, and against those who call for dropping a nuclear bomb on Gaza. However, these are just words and phrases. We need an action from the United States, an action that is more significant and stronger. The region has no leader. There is no authority in the region. Because the region has no leader, the envisioned leader should play a decisive and influential role, similar to what the United States did previously at the International Conference for Peace in the Middle East. The United States holds the power to exert pressure on the current Israeli leadership.
You're absolutely right. America would have the power if America would be willing to utilize the power to rein in Israel. So, does Jordan consider, from a Jordanian perspective, what is America? Is America a friend? What is America for Jordan?
The United States is a strong ally of Jordan, providing us with significant assistance and a powerful support. We are surrounded by Iranian threats, security, and expansionist threats. Iran has ambitions in Jordan, which have extended to Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, part of Gaza, and the openly declared primary target of Iran is Jordan. Therefore, we face real and tangible threats from the sectarian militias in Syria, as well as the smuggling of drugs and weapons. This is a significant factor. Therefore, our alliance with the United States helps us confront the Iranian threats. It also enables us to develop our defensive capabilities at all levels. Furthermore, our relationship and friendship with the United States also serve as a deterrent to Israel, preventing it from approaching Jordan. In addition, Jordan is capable of defending itself against Israel. Jordan is a stabilizing and controlling factor in the region, and therefore, the security of Jordan is interconnected with the security of the entire region. If security in Jordan is compromised, security in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the Gulf, and Israel will also be disrupted. If security in Jordan is shaken, these borders, which extend over 350 kilometers, would see an Iranian missile launch base on every kilometer. Therefore, the security and stability of Jordan is an international issue, an American issue, and a regional issue. The United States is committed to the security of Jordan, as is Europe, and China, and Russia. All of these powers recognize that Jordan is a country of peace, not an aggressor or occupier, and that it must remain protected from both Zionist and Iranian threats.
I will come back to Iran in 1 second, yeah? But first I would like to have your estimation. Is Jordan safe? And I leave it up to you to interpret what is safe.
Jordan is 100% safe. Jordan is safe from Iran because Iran has no proxies in Jordan. Iran does not have any sleeper cells in Jordan. Secondly, terrorism has no sleeper cells or acceptance in Jordan. A number of terrorists have emerged from the United States. Terrorists have emerged from Europe, from the United Kingdom, and from France. Terrorists have emerged from our country, but it is not a widespread phenomenon. Jordan is 100% safe. Jordan is striving not only to maintain its own security, but also to enhance security in the region. Jordan seeks peace in the region. Peace in the region is a Jordanian interest. Peace in the West Bank and Gaza Strip contributes to Jordan's national security. But Jordan is safe and also ready. It does not make us complacent. Jordan is safe, but it is prepared to face any challenges, especially those posed by some extremists who claim that Jordan is the alternative homeland for Palestinians.
You said a number of things that would be interesting to unpack. If we come back to Iran first. So Israel bombed the Iranian embassy in Syria. Then Israel assassinated Haniyeh. Then we had more recently, like almost 2 weeks ago already, the former CIA director, Leo, I don't recall his name now. It's a former CIA director, called it actually an act of state terror. The attack with the 3,000 pages that went off supposedly
5,000.
Yeah, there were 2 days. Yeah, first 3,000, then a second day, also radios and walkie-talkies and all kinds of things. Yeah, so that was another sting. And today, so it was actually on Friday, but it was announced today, the killing of Nasrallah. So it seems to me that Israel does anything it can to extend the conflict to engage Iran and the US, because the moment that Iran gets engaged, we all know that the US will get engaged. So in that, I don't even know if I can call it a worst case scenario, but in that scenario, what do you think would be the future or the role of Jordan if the conflict would extend to this degree?
The recent developments in the region indicate that Israel is a terrorist state, practicing terrorism at an official level. This includes crimes such as the assassinations in Lebanon, Iran, Dubai, Beirut, and other places, and resorting to methods used by criminal gangs. Assassinations do not bring Israeli security. Assassinations will not bring security to Israel. On the contrary, there will be reactions to the recent assassination, the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah. It is hoped that this will not be disastrous. On the other hand, Jordan is playing a role in calming the region. His Majesty the King delivered a speech at the United Nations, and Her Majesty the Queen also conducted an interview with IBC News, where they outlined a roadmap for peace. The Queen specified 5 steps or requirements for achieving peace in the region. Her Majesty emphasized that what is happening in the region is Israeli aggression and violations. Arrests, assassinations, raids, they are digging up the streets, destroying and burning the environment. All of this indicates Israeli extremism, not the actions of a responsible government. Israel has carried out hundreds of assassinations. Since the 1970s, Israel has carried out assassinations, including the killing of leaders such as Abu Jihad, the Hamshari, EPSO, and many Palestinian leaders like Ghassan Zakta and Ghassan Kanafani. It has assassinated numerous leaders everywhere, yet resistance has never stopped. When there is occupation, there is resistance. In Vietnam, in Algeria, if there is occupation, then there is resistance. And this resistance will not stop. It will only cease when the occupation ends and the occupation stops. Jordan is surrounded by many dangers. As I told you, Jordan excels in managing risks, emerging from dangers, crisis management, and overcoming challenges. Jordan consistently transforms challenges into opportunities and contributes to stability in the region. We are building an excellent relationship with Iraq. Yesterday, our foreign minister met with the foreign minister of Syria. Our relations are excellent with Egypt, constant coordination. Our relations with the United States and Europe are excellent. We are a factor of peace in the region, and we will not abandon this role.
The role of peacemaker in the region, it's a very challenging role at the moment, especially since the end goals for Israel are not very clear. If we look at the language that Israeli leaders are using, and I have a number of academics but also diplomats who confirm that the language Israeli leaders are using is genocidal. Netanyahu himself talked about Amalek. We all know what that means: kill every woman, child, donkey, dog, whatever, kill everybody. But it's not only Netanyahu. So there's many people in the most right-wing government that Israel ever had apply this genocidal language. Now there are fears that Netanyahu and or Israel might use this opportunity, this almost golden opportunity specifically for Netanyahu. I think October the 7th was a God-sent gift for Netanyahu for a number of reasons. But there are concerns from a number of diplomats and academics that Israel will use this opportunity to cleanse at least Gaza, but also potentially the West Bank. And I'm bringing this up specifically in regards to Jordan because there are also voices who say all the Palestinians from Gaza and the West Bank should simply go into Jordan. The Palestinians should topple the government in Jordan, so Jordan is then the Palestinian state.
Yes, this is an old and declared goal since the establishment of Israel. The founders wanted it to be a land without people. They expelled more than 700,000 Palestinians from Palestine in 1948 and elsewhere. The goal of making Jordan a Palestinian state and the relocation of Palestinians from the West Bank to Jordan is an illusion. Palestinians do not accept an alternative homeland. They have their original homeland for which they are fighting. For over 100 years, they have not accepted another homeland. Therefore, even in the middle of the displacements by 1948, they were unable to expel all the Palestinians from Nazareth, Haifa, Jaffa, Lydda, and Ramleh. The Palestinians remained on their land despite the suffering, massacres, sacrifices, oppression, and arrests. They stayed on their land and struggled to remain Palestinian on their land. The Palestinian Arab people do not accept any substitute for their beautiful homeland. The Palestinian homeland is beautiful and sweet. The Jordanian people stand with them in this. Israel cannot deport millions of Palestinians from their land. They can't even remove a single citizen without causing problems and disruptions. They cut down olive trees, destroy water wells, poison wells, and kill livestock. Yet, There is something called steadfastness. The Palestinian people excel in steadfastness, survival, and resistance. The true cause of resistance is Israel. Israel created the resistance. The Palestinian people are a people who love peace, just like the Jordanian people and the Arab people everywhere. These are peace-loving nations that want the killing to end, occupation and expansion. I want to tell you that Tel Aviv University conducted a study, and its results showed that if peace were to prevail in the region, the income of each Israeli would increase by 26%. This is a huge number. Countries are trying to make growth 2%, 3%, 4%. China did 5% growth and celebrated. If peace were to prevail in the region, according to a study by Tel Aviv University, each Israeli would see a 26% increase in income. Same goes to Jordanians, Lebanese, Egyptians, and Syrian. So, the fruits of peace are immense. By its actions, Israel is wasting enormous amounts of money and significant gains for its people, and also for our people and the Arab nations. The Israeli society is immersed in weapons. Look at the Israeli soldiers. Shelters, closures, settlement blocks, weapons, helmets, fighting, killers, alertness, and rockets. How long will this continue? This means that it is the Israeli extremism that keeps Israeli society in a state of war. 300, 400 every day are called for the reserve. The Israeli house is different from your house or mine. The Israeli wall must be thicker than mine. The door and windows must be sturdier, with more concrete and more metal, so that they are not confronted. There are no shelters in the world after World War II. The world no longer builds underground shelters except in Israel. In Israel, there are underground hospitals. There is a hospital in Israel with a capacity of 2,000 beds underground. If this country were not seeking war and expansion, it would not need shelters. Every city on every street in Israel has shelters. This beep alarm hits the sirens and people run to shelters. They are running and breaking through this fire. 2 were killed. Thus, Israeli expansion is what is depriving its people of peace and the fruits of peace.
One of the reasons why Israelis are not using the opportunities, of course, because they're indoctrinated since early childhood on. I interviewed a specialist, Israeli professor on that subject matter. But when it comes, you said it will not happen that Jordan takes Palestinian refugees. There was a document leaked 6 days after October the 7th, and I can link this document in the description of this interview, that outlined a complete plan to erase how shall I say this? To ethnically cleanse basically Gaza from all Palestinians. This came from an Israeli ministry. I'm not entirely sure now which one, but again, I will link the original document. It was a worked out plan 6 days after October the 7th. Now, such a plan you cannot create in a couple of days. It named the countries, it named the means, it named anything. So the preparations for a complete displacement of the people in Gaza was already there before October the 7th. And I believe it was Professor Omar Bartov, he's a genocide expert, who said to me, there is and it's very black and white, yeah, but there's a linear progression to genocide. So there's a linear progression. Dehumanization, what we see in Gaza. Then you try to ethnically cleanse the area, which we also see in Gaza, because except for the north, Gaza is basically ethnically cleansed. And then he said, if you can't get rid of them, you kill them. Now, I have used this quote on a number of other occasions, also with academic genocide experts. And not everybody agrees with this linear projectile. But the first two we see in Gaza, dehumanization and ethnic cleanse. Now you have a very large amount of this population in a very small area. So as of yesterday, if the numbers are correct, we have 41,389 deaths in Gaza. And this is not including all the people who are still under the rubble. And you have almost 100,000, 98,000 something of wounded, gravely wounded, wounds that change your life if you lose a limb. I don't think it would take much for Israel to frighten or to, how shall I call it, to drive the Palestinians wherever Israel wants. So it could be Egypt, it could be Jordan, it could be in the sea. You continue to bomb the population as Israel does, and you put them in smaller and smaller confined areas. So the question is, could there come a point where Jordan does, or Egypt does not have a choice?
Regardless, there are always plans, ambitions, and so on. The killings taking place in Gaza, this genocide in Gaza, demonstrate that the people of Gaza refuse to leave their land. If the Israelis were able to throw the Palestinians into the sea or throw the Palestinians of Gaza into Egypt or the Sinai Desert, they would have done so. But the Palestinians refuse to leave their land. That's the equation. The equation is not to go to Egypt or to Jordan. No, people can't. You either kill them or let them stay in their land. The schemes are many, but they don't always apply. Specifically, the displacement of Palestinians to Jordan. Jordan is safe, and His Majesty the King has declared that the displacement of Palestinians from the West Bank to the East Bank to Jordan would be considered a declaration of war. This would result in the cancellation of the peace treaty and the severing of ties. All of this is something the Israeli society, of course, cannot bear. This is an attempt to execute their pickups. We have friends and partners in the world. America and Europe do not allow. America, which supports Israel, condemns the settlements, condemns extremist settlers. It condemns the fattening of settlements or the construction of new ones. Even America. Therefore, Israel is not entirely free. A free hand in killing, then genocide. This is what happens in Gaza, and now it is happening in the West Bank and in Lebanon. But it cannot uproot the people of Lebanon and displace them. What is happening is the immigration of Israelis from northern Israel and from southern Israel. The settlements adjacent to Gaza are empty of people. The settlements adjacent to Lebanon are empty of settlers. What happens is that the Israelis are isolating their lands, settlements, and homes, not the other way around. Jordan is safe and secure from any malicious ideas. You can devise any thought you wish, but in terms of execution, you cannot carry it out. The Israeli forces invaded Jordanian territory during the Battle of Karame on March 21st, where they faced a Jordanian storm. The tanks were destroyed, and the invading forces were repelled and returned to the occupied West Bank. Jordan is not easy, nor is it breakable. Jordan is strong and resilient. I told you, the cornerstone is this internal unity in Jordan, which includes Christians, Kurds, and Jordanians of Palestinian origin. We are all partners in protecting our stability and security.
I'm asking you a provocative question now, because you said, I have the impression that you think that Jordan would militarily be strong enough to repel Israel. Is that really what you think?
Jordan is capable of confronting any Israeli aggression. The correct statement is that their aircraft can carry out bombings. However, our artillery can bombard Tel Aviv from close distances if necessary. No, we are not an easy target. And we are not prey in any case. No, they know. As for the Jordanian borders, I mentioned to you that the length of the Jordanian border with Israel and Palestine is 350 kilometers, and even more. For every kilometer, there will be a launch base for Katyusha rockets or other types of rockets. Jordan's security cannot be compromised, nor can Jordan be threatened. The implementation of the threat is impossible, and even the threat to Jordan is not conceivable. Instead of contemplating an attack on Jordan, Netanyahu is now focused on constructing barriers to separate Israel from Jordan, driven by his concern over the potential threat emanating from Jordan. We respect and protect our borders. However, he is now in the process of building a wall to separate Jordan. Those who want Jordan do not build a wall. They build a bridge to enter Jordan through it, not a wall.
I sincerely hope you're right in that matter. In the past, it didn't always work out well for Jordan when it engaged militarily with Israel. And I believe I read in the memoirs of the king's father that I think his greatest regret was losing Gaza and East Jerusalem as a consequence of a war. Is there any chance, from your perspective, realistically, for Jordan to regain control, probably politically, of East Jerusalem and or the West Bank?
Jordan, internationally and by virtue of the Arab stance towards Israel, holds the position of custodian of the Islamic and Christian holy sites in Jerusalem. The Jordanian monarchy is responsible for the management of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and Islamic holy sites, and this role is recognized by the entire world, including Europe, America, and the Arab world. No one competes with us in shouldering the responsibility of protecting these sacred sites. Israel is attempting to storm the Al-Aqsa Mosque, but Jordan is protecting it. A Jordanian role in the West Bank and Jerusalem is not contemplated. We are the alternative to the two-state solution. An independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital and a secure Israeli state. Israel's security cannot be achieved without Palestinian security. After independence, if the Palestinians seek unification with Jordan, a referendum will be held for the Palestinian people in the West Bank and the Jordanian people in Jordan. Do we want unity? We are the ones who call for unity. We are advocates of unity. We are the children of unity. And the 1950 Jordanian-Palestinian unity still stands, as it was established in the Jericho Conference. The unity continued until Israel's occupation of the West Bank, and the most significant unity in Arab history was the Jordanian-Palestinian unity. We are the ones making the request for unity, but we are not asking for annexation or the incorporation of the West Bank. We do not annex the West Bank, nor occupy it, nor make it an extension of Jordan. We support the free voluntary choice of the people of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Their freedom is theirs to decide. If they choose unity with Jordan, of course, we are in favor of the unity of Palestinian land. The West Bank and the Gaza Strip, this is Palestinian land, and we treat it as such. We do not accept separate rulings here and there. We were not originally in favor of Hamas ruling Gaza and the Palestinian Authority ruling the West Bank. We stand for the unity of Palestinian land. After the establishment of the Palestinian state, freedom, and independence, if the Palestinians, Jordanians, Egyptians, and Syrians wish to unite, this is a voluntary free popular decision, not a top-down decision. We do not annex the West Bank to Jordan, nor do we incorporate the West Bank into Jordan.
It's interesting that you said that, yeah? Hamas and who supported Hamas. So, for the uninitiated, it's almost unheard of to claim that Netanyahu actually supported Hamas because it weakened Fatah in the West Bank, right? So there was this interplay in the background that made it very difficult for other countries like Jordan to react to Hamas. So if we now switch from the Gaza Strip to the West Bank, where many things happening, many not so positive things happening, I have images in my mind that really reminded me on the pogroms in Nazi Germany, right? Where hordes of people raid Palestinian villages. They burned everything with clubs, you know? And all of this is now under the, I would say, under the mist, under the cover of, for example, Gaza. Before now, the conflict now in Lebanon was initiated by Israel. What happened in the West Bank was kind of neglected by the international media. How do those two, are those two separate conflicts? Is it, I know it's under the umbrella of one conflict, yeah? But there are certain things happening, specific things in Gaza and different things in the West Bank. So as far as you can tell, what's the strategy of Israel in regards to the West Bank, which is, I believe, more dangerous for Jordan than what happens in the Gaza?
The current Israeli ruling elite supports expansion and settlement, which leads to the rule of extremists and settlers in the matter of building more settlements. This year, the construction of 5,100 new units was approved, and the Israeli settlement policy in Palestinian territories means that Gaza will become a target for settlers. Israel will work to settle more Israelis in Gaza, which is a very serious threat. Israel occupied Gaza, then withdrew under Sharon, and then reoccupied it. This is a cycle of blood and violence that never ends. Additionally, 4,500 immigrants come to Israel every month from around the world, Jews and non-Jews. Anyone is granted Jewish nationality. The number has decreased now, partly due to the emergence of resistance and the rise of Israeli terrorism. However, regarding the future of Gaza, Netanyahu did support Hamas. Netanyahu was comfortable with the Palestinian division. The Palestinian divide between Hamas and Fatah was very comfortable for the Israelis, and they nurtured it. They allowed salaries and funds to flow into Gaza. By the way, the Palestinian Authority was paying the salaries of teachers, doctors, and hospital staff. But several Arab countries, especially Qatar, also contributed to providing funds for the livelihood of the people of Gaza. This relieved Netanyahu, as the Palestinian people were divided. The unity of the Palestinian people is a threat to Israeli settlements and to Israeli expansion. So Israel will work and think about more settlements and more immigrants, which means destroying Gaza until it becomes a land devoid of people and housing as well. For this reason, President Sisi declared that any attempt to deport Palestinians from Gaza to Egypt would be considered a declaration of war, and we declared that the attempt to displace Palestinians to Jordan is a declaration of war. Therefore, the Palestinians will remain on their land. They will resist the Al-Aqsa flood that occurred, and another, stronger or weaker, Al-Aqsa flood will happen. As long as resistance exists, whether stronger or lighter, with different or new methods, the Palestinian people will continue to develop new means of resistance.
You mentioned the two-state solution.
Yes.
That's a very interesting topic because going back to Ben Gurion himself, who wrote in the letters to his son, which we have, that he accepted the partition, meaning the two-state solution, only as a means to an end. And the end, of course, was a greater Israel. And till today, this slogan, from the river to the sea, which is now forbidden in some European countries, not realizing that it is actually a Jewish slogan. It's today in the charter of the Likud party. It says, from the river to the sea. So from the very beginning, the two-state solution was never the goal for Israel. So whoever propagates the two-state solution today neglects the true intent of the Zionist project. Now, I realized I interviewed Dan Perry, who was the former head of Associated Press in EMEA, also here in the Middle East, of course, EMEA. He supports Israel, but that's not why I interviewed him. I just wanted to see how, yeah. But he said one thing, the people, and he called them boneheads, his words, not mine, the boneheads who populate the West Bank with settlers make a strategic mistake because they undermine what he still supports, the two-state solution. And he said virtually, the world will push for a one-state solution, means one vote, one body, one vote. And that by definition would be the end of Israel, because demographically there are more Arabs in Greater Palestine than Israelis. So from Jordanian and from your experience, but also from Jordanian point of view, what is the more realistic solution here? One-state solution, two-state solution, no-state solution? I mean, Israel doesn't even have recognized borders. So where is the...
Yes. One state is also a threat to Israel, but not for geographical or demographic reasons. Not for demographic reasons, but because of the many Jewish immigrants each month. There are 1 million Jewish immigrants planned to arrive in Israel. Israel will prevail in the matter of demography. There is no demographic threat to Israel. This is for the only country, the only democratic state. In Israel, 20% are Arabs from the 1948 territories. And these individuals cause concern for the Israelis. They have around 10 seats in the Knesset. If united, they would have 18 seats in the Knesset. Then, the one-state solution prevents Israel from achieving expansion, which is considered part of Greater Israel. As for the one-state solution, there is no support for it. No countries back the democratic one-state solution, whether Arab or Israeli. Biden says he supports the two-state solution. Kamala Harris agrees with a two-state solution. The United States, Europe, and the entire world support the two-state solution, except for Netanyahu. Netanyahu, along with the terrorist group he is allied with, is the one who rejects the two-state solution. This prevents independence, dignity, and freedom, while also not ensuring Israel's security. Experience has shown that force does not bring security. The strongest state in the region, Israel, has not achieved security until now, despite being the most powerful state. Secondly, the weakest people in the region is the Palestinian Arab people. They did not give up. There is a pursuit of peace, not surrender. Where is the Israeli wisdom? You, my brother Thomas, if you want to negotiate with your opponent or with your enemy, you negotiate with him while he is at his weakest. The weakest case now is the case of the Palestinian Arab people. Sit with them, talk to them, and come up with solutions. If the Palestinian people are strong, solutions will become more difficult for you, and you will have to make more concessions. So there is no wisdom in Israel. There is only extremism in Israel. The Israeli society that produced Ben-Gvir, Netanyahu, and the extremists is a society that does not want peace. Netanyahu is not a satanic creation, nor is he a product of his own. Netanyahu is the result of interactions within Israeli society. The Labour Party, which built Israel, has fewer seats in the Knesset than Ahmad Tibi's party. Israeli society is moving towards a religious state, towards extremism, and towards denying the rights of the Palestinian people.
The Israeli state faces a number of challenges. Yeah? So, two-state solution. I spoke to a number of people I've interviewed on my channel who said that for any politician who would try to achieve a fair peace, meaning a two-state solution, meaning getting the settlers out of West Bank, for example, would risk civil war in Israel. So there are multiple fault lines within Israel. You have let's just say the Ashkenazi Jews, you have the Sephardic Jews, you have the Orthodox, which, they are now supposed to go in the army. There are multiple, fractures within the Israeli society. And without this war, we had mass demonstrations against Netanyahu just before October the 7th. We had now also mass demonstrations after October the 7th, also against Netanyahu. Yeah? Gideon Levy, Haras, Israel, told me, it doesn't matter. Professor Nurit Peled El-Hanan last week told me the same thing. It doesn't matter. So Gideon Levy said it doesn't matter because the people who demonstrate don't vote anyway for Netanyahu. So there is a fault line within the Israeli society. Do you see, and I call it very provocatively, do you think that Israel, despite all the external threats that they perceive, might actually implode from the inside?
Netanyahu becomes more powerful after what he achieved in southern Lebanon. Netanyahu's most important achievement is to repatriate Israelis who left settlements in northern Israel. This can be achieved. Currently, opinion polls indicate that Netanyahu has become stronger. So when Netanyahu becomes stronger, we are further away from peace. There is no peace if Netanyahu is in power, if Netanyahu is strong, and if the majority in the Knesset is with Netanyahu. If elections would be held now, Netanyahu would win, because this is what the polls indicate. The Israeli society was built on secularism. Ben-Gurion, in the Declaration of Independence, spoke about secularism, socialism, kibbutzim, sovkhoz, and kolkhoz, terms that were prevalent in the Soviet Union. Therefore, the Soviet Union was the first to recognize Israel, followed by other countries. This was the foundation of a secular and democratic state, but Israel's image has completely changed since then. During that period, Israel was more democratic, more realistic, and more concerned about its stability. This is why they proposed Rabin in 1993, agreeing to his approach, as there was reason and rationality. At that time, there were rational options for the Israelis. Now, the victories they have achieved, especially in intelligence and security, have put them in a state of euphoria and joy, making them further removed from a political solution. On the contrary, they will resort to the mindset of, we are the strongest, we impose our will. The initial idea was land for peace, then it became peace for peace, and now it has become security for peace. This security for the Arabs in exchange for peace means that we will not invade you, occupy you, or bomb you in exchange for peace. The truth is that Israeli society is frightening. All the humanistic ideas and peace concepts that Mr. Thomas mentioned have no room for implementation because there is a sense of power. A sense that power does everything. And this is what the Israelis have experienced. The Israelis have fought since 1948. They fought before that. In 1920, there was a battle called the Battle of Fox's Hill between the Jordanians and the Jews. So, 120 years ago, 104 years ago, there was fighting. And it will continue, because you cannot force me to surrender or raise the white flag, because we are people with dignity. They poured fire and hell upon the Vietnamese, rockets, fires, destruction, and bombings. Yet, the peaceful, small-sized Vietnamese people did not surrender.
You said that Netanyahu is very happy with what he has achieved in Lebanon. Now, from your estimation, how severe is the blow against, how bad is it actually for Hezbollah, what has now happened? I mean, for Hezbollah as an organization, how weakened have they been through the 3,000 people from the Patriot attacks, and now Nasrallah killed. There are already voices that say Beirut or Lebanon might end up as Gaza. Yeah, but that's future. But for now, do you think what happened up until today, actually, with the killing of Nasrallah, how weak is Hezbollah through what's happened up until now?
Hezbollah lost its prominent leader, Hassan Nasrallah, along with many field and military commanders. There has also been displacement from southern Lebanon due to Israeli bombings targeting Beirut and the northern region. Lebanese people lost their homes, like in Gaza, but without the destruction of the houses. There is terrorism, bombing, and death. Hezbollah lost the intelligence battle. They lost the security battle. They also lost Iranian support. Iran lost the unity of the front lines. He used to use the slogan of unity of the front lines. Iran's supreme leader, Khamenei, said today that Lebanon will punish Israel. He did not say Iran would punish Israel. Lebanon said Israel would be punished. Lebanon is weak, fragmented, and divided into sects, with some supporting Hezbollah and others opposing it. What did he mean? He did not say Iran will hold Israel accountable. This is Hezbollah, in fact, at its weakest state today. But this state of weakness is not permanent. This will happen. Hezbollah will acquire more missiles, new weapons, and new leadership, which may be even more radical than Hassan Nasrallah. Assassinations don't end. They didn't stop after the assassinations of Hamas leaders like Yassin, Rantisi, and Haniyeh. A large number of Hamas leaders were killed, and yet Hamas remains in the tunnels.
I have not received everything from my interpreter, but did you say that Hezbollah lost and that Iran took a step back? Did I understand this correctly?
Iran is abandoning Hezbollah. Iran will not sacrifice its power, status, and achievements, especially its nuclear achievements, for the sake of Hezbollah. Hezbollah is Iran's gateway, so Iran will not sacrifice the gateway for the family. Netanyahu is trying to lure Iran into a trap. Iran has a nuclear project. He wants to drag Iran into the battle in order to involve the United States, Britain, and France to help Israel and strike Iran. Therefore, Iran is more realistic, wise, cautious, and calculating. You sacrifice the egg, not the goose. The goose can produce another egg. So, Iran is the patron of Hezbollah, the Houthis, and this popular mobilization force. These are organizations that are utilized to serve Iran, but when they become a burden on Iran, it will abandon them. That is why Supreme Leader Khamenei says Lebanon will punish Israel. He did not say Iran would punish Israel. Even the language of the president at the United Nations when he went to America was new and different. Iran is internally exhausted. The sanctions have suffocated it. Iran is struggling. There is no gasoline, no fuel, no electricity in Iran. There is repression and massacres against the people, and there is hunger. Iraq's resources are being exploited, leaving Iran in its final throes. Now Iranians are plundering Iraq and living off it. There are drugs because of open borders. Almost all Iranian goods are markets for Iran through the oil it exports, along with Iraq. So Iran needs solutions. Iran's problem is not the liberation of Palestine or Hamas. Iran wants a sphere of influence with a depth of 5,000 kilometers. If the United States agrees to give Iran a sphere of influence with a depth of 5,000, 4,000, or 3,000 kilometers, Iran would become part of the American system in the region. Iran has previously reached agreements with the United States and Israel, the Great Satan. And as said, they agreed on Iran-Contra, the Iran Gate. They may come up with solutions that you wouldn't even imagine. In Iran, interests come before principles, deceiving the Arab and Muslim peoples. But in the end, Iran has not killed a single Israeli since 1979, when the Iranian Revolution took place against Israel, against arrogance, and against America. Iran didn't kill a single Israeli. We don't want her to kill, and she didn't. They claim to have the Quds Force and armies, yet we have not seen these armies. They say they want to open the borders for us. Jordan's borders, Syria's borders, and Lebanon's borders are all open, but there is deception in Iranian ambitions. To us, Iran is like Israel.
We have not discussed Syria yet. That's true. There's another actor in this drama that is unfolding. But I wanted, again, a little bit provocative and very black and white. In your perspective, who is the greater threat for the overall situation here in the Middle East? Is it Iran or is it America?
The dominant power in the region is the United States. No, Iran is waiting for America's favor. It is trying to reach an agreement with the United States. Even in Iraq, the Al-Assad base is close to Iran, an American military base. Iraq and Syria have American bases. In Turkey and Jordan everywhere are American bases. The United States is the dominant power in the region, but America's weak point is Israel. It is its bleeding, painful Achilles heel. If it weren't for Israel pressuring the United States to get involved in decisions, protections at the United Nations, weapons, and warships, the U.S. wouldn't be here now. We would have isolated the American world.
Yeah, it's the combination, America, Israel. I think it was Joe Biden who said in the 1980s already, when he was a senator, that Israel is an unthinkable airplane carrier, right? And what I very often miss in the reflections, but also in the media, is the geopolitical aspect of this confrontation. So there is, of course, can we say, a descending empire like America and a ascending empire, which is China, right? So the geopolitical landscape is completely changing. And with that, of course, comes the power struggle. And if we look at the Middle East specifically, and there is not a very large influence of China yet, but Russia definitely was involved in the war in Syria, for example, right? So and I have spoken with a number of people who say that the influence of America in the Middle East is actually waning. And a very good example is Saudi Arabia. I mean, in the last, 50, since 1971, Nixon cut the Bretton Woods Accord, so he had to, petrodollar and so forth. So since then, America had a very strong grip on Saudi Arabia. Now this is gone. We know all, there are changes in the region. Yeah, BRICS is rising. So from a geopolitical perspective, again, I make it very black and white. America seems to get weaker. How does this reflect the situation on the ground, or does it already find reflections on the ground, or you think it will take a while still?
Trump weakened America's presence in the region and nearly withdrew militarily, but the U.S. remains the #1 power in the region. The U.S.-Saudi relations were at their peak, and China facilitated a Saudi-Iranian reconciliation or truce. However, This does not mean that Saudi Arabia has exited the American framework. The truth is, the United States remains the greatest power, the largest economic power. China is trying, but its economic power has not yet transformed into military and political power. This is China's gap. It is ahead with warships, aid, the economy, cars, technology, and aircraft. But everything is exported, and all trade, American relations, and American influence are protected, guarded by warships. Chinese industry is not accompanied by power on the ground, political and military power. China has no influence in the region. The U.S. is a captain, armed, while China is a traitor. It seeks to win favor and may offer aid, loans, and so on, but it has no influence on the ground. China has brought in 14 Palestinian factions to Beijing, achieving a reconciliation for them, but this reconciliation is paper thin. The same goes for Moscow. It's paper thin. Saudi Arabia conducted paper reconciliations. So China is a major power in the United Nations. An economically great country, but it is not a global superpower. A superpower in the South China Sea. A great country regarding Taiwan. Regarding Taiwan or Hong Kong, it is not a country with diplomatic or political influence in the region. When the Middle East crisis was intense and raging, countries tried to organize an international peace conference for the Middle East. America and the Soviet Union agreed to hold a Middle East peace conference. China cannot force, pressure, or lead nations or peoples to peace in the way that the United States or the former Soviet Union did.
Not yet, yeah. Very briefly before we conclude. So America depends on petrodollar. On the same token, America has exceeded $1 trillion of debt. It's more than 100% of the GDP. When it comes to the petrodollar, the one thing that Libya's Gaddafi and Iraq's Saddam Hussein had in common was that they started to sell oil against something else than dollar. Now Russia does the same thing, Iran does the same thing. China buys oil against something, also with something else than, also with Chinese yuan actually. So the lifeblood of America, which is the petrodollar, yeah, and we will not go into explaining what the petrodollar is slowly but surely getting less, right? So if I would be, I don't know, China, Russia, Iran, I would simply wait. The big super carrier that America is today here in the region is getting weaker. Yeah, the question is only how long does it take? So from your perspective, for Jordan, how do you see the, I don't know, the next 3, 5, 10 years of American support for Jordan, or the lack of it going forward?
Yes, I shared it in a group on social media. America is no longer the leading power or the dominant force that once ruled the entire world. There are attempts from China, but deals can be made with Russia, Iran, and China. This rebellion against American dominance and control is short-term, and it does not impact Jordan or other countries. These are attempts by several countries to build their own identity, to establish their own position, and to try to go their own way. This is a signal to the United States in order to gain concessions in the U.S.-China economic war, the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and so on. But in the end, American technology and the U.S. military-industrial complex are what drive the U.S. and the world. The world continues to purchase American weapons in the hundreds of billions, even trillions. Every country buys aircraft, with each nation purchasing 10 planes at $15 billion, such as the American F-35 jets, along with other advanced technologies, including in space. America is not as weak as it may appear, and it is not easily defeated. The U.S. will not collapse and will not abandon its allies. America is not a philanthropist. It does not offer charity or donations without gaining benefits and achievements from these aids. The stability of Jordan is part of the achievements that the United States is keen to protect. This stability is connected to oil, the dollar, Israel, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf, and America's position in the region. If the U.S. were to leave the region and abandon Jordan, it would fall into the hands of Jordan's enemies and America's enemies. Therefore, Jordan is a key pillar in the American power structure as well. We also have the main strengths that enable us to maintain our stability.
Your Excellency, you were very gracious with your time. Before we now conclude, is there a topic that is close to your heart that we have not covered yet? Is there any message to the world that you would like to present?
The truth is, this is an important region with suffering, bloodshed, pain, and tragedies. It poses a threat to global peace. What is happening in southern Lebanon could extend to Iraq, Iran, Syria, Turkey, and even Europe. We notice that the conscience of the world has begun to awaken to the facts that the Palestinian people are suffering from occupation and resisting this occupation, and Israel always declares that it is defending itself. Israel called its army the Israeli Defense Forces. Okay, the Israeli Defense Forces, meaning we are weak. The Arabs are attacking us. Why do you go to Nicaragua and help the dictatorial regime in Nicaragua? Why? You go to support the apartheid regime in South Africa. Has South Africa attacked you? Several countries, such as Myanmar, why do you support dictatorships around the world? Why do you go around the world and support repressive regimes against their own people? Did Nicaragua, Myanmar, Guatemala, and South Africa ever pose a threat to Israel? Did it harm Israel? Israeli Defense Forces. Why does the IDF go to South Africa? It supported the abhorrent racist regime in South Africa. This prompted South Africa to seek revenge for these despicable Israeli actions, leading them to take the matter to court. The secret of Israel's strategy is impunity. Israel's code is impunity. A criminal with no one to restrain him or bring him to court. And impunity due to the support of the United States, Britain, and France. These three countries to varying degrees. The truth is, I appeal through you, my friend Thomas. The feeling of bloodshed and pain that resulted from Nazism and fascism is even more pronounced here. There is Zionism, there is fascism, there is Nazism. What has been done with the bombs dropped on Gaza surpasses the bombs dropped on Dresden and London. This is clear to the world. The world just needs to take a stance consistent with international law and human rights law. The international law, with conscience, with honor, with right, with justice, with goodness, and with peace.
And one of those Europeans who have a very lucid view on the situation was our dear acquaintance Ambassador Nicolaus van Dam, who was kind enough to connect me with you. So I really want to mention this. I interviewed the ambassador. Yeah, he's very outspoken. He has a lifelong career in the region. He speaks fluently Arabic. I saw him on Arabic interviews. So I recommend really everybody to watch this interview because it comes from someone who really knows what he's speaking about.
My regards to you and to our mutual friend, Nicholas Van Dam, the former Dutch ambassador, who is one of the most honorable and courageous individuals in the world, speaking with a clear conscience.
On that note, dear Excellency, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your presence and for coming. It is truly my pleasure to discuss our issues, the region's matters, and the issues of the broader area. You have raised very important and key topics regarding the region.
Thank you for watching. If you found this conversation as thought-provoking as I did, don't stop here. Hit subscribe to stay connected with more unfiltered discussions and critical perspectives you won't find in the mainstream media. And for deeper insights, join me on Substack, where I share analysis through the lens of an academically trained behavior analyst. From uncovering hidden motives to breaking down global events, it's where the real conversation continues. Subscribe now and be part of something that matters. The link is in the description below.